Hey, a brand new episode of the Happy Productive Podcast is about to begin. It's time to be inspired by simple and actionable solutions for you and your business. If you're an established entrepreneur or just laying down the first brick of your future empire, the mantra is the same. We will flip any failure into a positive and use it to our advantage. This show is all about turning coal into diamonds. With the right plan and mindset, anything is possible. I'm Jennifer Dawn, your host, business coach, and founder of Best Planner Ever, and I'm here to help you achieve all your ambitious goals. Success is closer than you think. Let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today I want to talk a little bit about red flags of toxic employees, things to look for in your team. And if you see them, do not overlook them. And this is actually fresh on my mind today because it's coming from a recent episode where we had to let go of one of our team members, one of our project managers actually on our team. And this has happened, and it's so funny, you guys, because I've coached so many business owners on this. And then when it happens to you, you're just like, crap, like I knew better, like I knew that. Or I saw the signs and then I ignored them. And because we're optimistic, right? So what happens when you are going to add a new member of your team, right? You go through the hiring process, you go through the interview process, and hopefully you actually have a process there where you've interviewed them, maybe check their references. I have a personality assessment test I want them to take so I can kind of see where they rank there. And so you've gone through this process, right? And for sometimes it might have been weeks or even months to hire this right person. So the right person, you think they're the right person and they get in and you're optimistic, right? You really want it to work because you need the help. You've gone through this effort. You've taken your time to hire them. So you really want it to work. And what happens usually is in the first 2 weeks, I'm going to say those red flags will show up in the first 2 weeks if you're really paying attention. But usually in those first 2 weeks, though, we're so optimistic and we're so forgiving because the person is like just getting started and doesn't know and da 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 da. And so we tend to kind of overlook some of the red flags. And so today what I want to do is I just want to put some attention on a few of the red flags that I saw and I actually overlooked and did not pay attention to so that hopefully you will not make the same mistake that I made. Okay, so red flag number 1, there is always a perfectly legitimate, reasonable excuse as to why they can't actually show up and do their job, okay? Here's what I'm talking about, right? Oh, my child is sick today. And look, it's not that we don't have sick kids. I have 3 children. I totally get it. I'm just giving some examples. And if your kid is occasionally sick, okay, fine. But if you start hearing like, oh, today my kid is sick, and then next week it's, oh my gosh, there was a big storm and there's a power outage and I can't get on the internet and I can't work. And the next week it's now I'm sick, right? Now I'm feeling this, now I'm feeling that. Oh, and then the next week it's, oh, I have a conflict. I really want to work, but for this very valid, legitimate reason, I can't actually show up to work. This is a red flag, okay? Pay attention. People have stuff, I get it, but if you start to see this happening over and over and over, where there's always some reason why they just can't show up to do the work, pay attention to that red flag. Another red flag, they blame everybody else but themselves, right? They do not take personal ownership or personal accountability for the job being done correctly. And here's the thing. If we mess something up, we absolutely want to say, you know what, that was on me. That's my bad. I'm going to own it and I'm going to fix it. It's the right thing to do. And in business, things will get dropped. They will not get done. Mistakes are going to happen. It's going to happen. There's just no way to expect that it's always going to be perfect all the time. But when a mistake happens, we want to have people on our team who will actually take personal responsibility, even if it wasn't them, but take ownership, take responsibility. Hey, this mistake happened. This thing got dropped. I assume responsibility for it. I am so sorry, but I'm going to get on it and I'm going to fix it. But the toxic employee is always going to be blaming other people. And there is a big difference between blaming other people versus offering solutions to make a process better. Okay, so you have a process and it's not working. And because it's not working, things are falling through the cracks. And an employee who says, hey, I see this process isn't working. Here's a possible solution, but we need to do something different here because things are getting dropped. That's great. That's personal accountability, personal responsibility. That employee, that contractor is saying, hey, I see a problem. I'm going to own responsibility here. I'm going to help fix this problem. That we like. On the flip side, no, I couldn't get done. And so you start seeing people, well, the client didn't do this and this vendor didn't do that. And because of this person and that person, and they have all these reasons and excuses of why it didn't get done. It didn't get done right. Things were messed up. So pay attention when you start seeing a person who is blaming everybody else, but it's never them. And yet catastrophe and chaos, are happening all around them, and they're kind of in the center, but yet it's never their fault. Pay attention, okay? You're going to also maybe you could potentially start to see a little bit of victim mentality there where it's everybody else, it's never me. And when you have a person like that, you either have to develop them out of that victim mentality that it's always everybody else, never me, or you need to get rid of them and replace them with somebody who naturally will take ownership and take responsibility. So pay attention. If they always have a reason why it's everybody else's fault, but never their own, that's going to be a red flag. Another red flag is, and this one actually happened to me with a former employee from a year or two ago, which is spot check the work, okay? Don't always just take their word for it, especially when they're new on your team. So we had a member of our team and he was a project manager. Another project manager, but he was also in charge of our academy, which is our membership organization. And that was his baby, was the membership, because that's what he was going to be running. And so what would happen is that he would check things off in Asana. Asana is our project management tool. And he would check things off in Asana as completed. So me, as the owner of the business, is seeing things are getting completed. And I'm like, oh, this is super fantastic. But then, this kind of behavior can only go on for so long before it's going to catch up with you. And that's what happened with this fine gentleman, is that I then started checking because I'm like, how is that done? When I go and I look at the website and it's like, wait, it's not actually done, but it's checked off in Asana, but it's not actually done. And the deeper I dug into it, I found that this person was clocking hours, saying things were completed, and they weren't completed at all. And about 2 or 3 months of time had passed of him saying things were done that weren't done. And because me as the business owner, I was busy and I trusted and I didn't check the work in the beginning. And I just assumed, if he's checking it off in Asana, because I would never check something off in Asana that wasn't actually done. So that concept didn't even land with me that somebody would just say things were completed that weren't. And so as a red flag here, and more of it's just for ourselves as business owners, take the time in the first 90 days to make sure that you go back behind. And I don't care if you're like, oh, I don't want to be a micromanager. I'm going to tell you right now, micromanage, all right? Micromanage in the beginning until your person has earned the trust and the trust is there and you know that they're doing the job. And if they can't handle the fact that you're going to micromanage a little bit in the beginning, they're not your right person, okay? Your right person says, yes, check up on me, help me, develop me, point me in the right direction, make sure I'm doing this job the right way. The right person will have that attitude. So as the business owner, though, just make sure that you are, in fact, double checking the work until that trust is absolutely there. Now, one other red flag I really want to touch on is they disappear when the spotlight is on them or the heat is on because they haven't been performing like they're supposed to. And so maybe a client has complained, maybe a coworker has complained. And in that situation, when the heat is on and they're like, hey, you didn't do something right, how they act in that moment is huge, okay? If you have a person who it's like, hey, this wasn't done right, or I don't like the result, or the client complained, and they say, not a problem, let's get on the phone, let's talk about it, I will fix it. Good. We want that, right? They're taking accountability, they're taking ownership, they're willing to improve their skill set, they have that open mindset. This is the kind of person we want on our team. The person who then disappears when you're like, hey, the heat is on, and they're like, oh, I'm going to be out sick, or hey, oh, they've got some reason why, they can't be in the meeting and they're avoiding you. That's your red flag. Okay. That's your red flag. So pay attention to how they react when the heat is on. There's some criticism going on. They need to improve something. How do they receive that feedback? And this is some of what happened with actually our recent person, is that the heat was kind of on and we were expecting her to perform and the clients were complaining, and then all of a sudden she quit. Right. And so it was literally like the emails passed of, hey, we need to talk about your future here. And hey, I'm quitting, right? Because the heat was on. And so she disappeared not in a good way. And it sucks when that happens, but it does happen. So if you're a business owner and you have an employee and you're like, oh, they totally kind of, wasted a bunch of time and hours, wasted a bunch of money, wasted a bunch of effort and energy, maybe made you look bad in front of your clients. I'm just going to tell you, it happens to everybody. It just happened to me. It will happen to you. If you talk to other business owners, it will happen to them too. So you're not alone. It's not something like, I'm broken. I don't attract the right people. That's nonsense. Don't even go there. Like, it's just going to happen to all of us as we grow our teams. You're going to get some bad apples in there. And what I always say is learn from the experience and then go hire somebody better, because it always opens that door of opportunity for the right person to come in and get your mindset in the right place. Do not go down the road of, well, I tried to hire people and it never worked out, so I'm just going to stay small. I'm going to stay a one-person shop. If you really want to grow your business, if you want to be a one-person shop, great. But if you're trying to grow your business and you hired some people and they didn't work out, so you gave up, we don't want to see that, right? You absolutely can grow your business. You can find the right people. They are out there, but you've got to get into the right mindset first. And then when you do hire them, be savvy about paying attention to these red flags. Do not let things go, get brushed under the carpet because you're optimistic and you want to see it work out really good. The first 2 weeks to 30 days, right? The first 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to see some red flags. If you're not, great. But if you do, pay attention to those red flags and don't let them go on month after month. If they can be corrected, fantastic. But if you see things that are happening and they can't be corrected, you may have to rehire for that position. All right, you guys, I hope there's some bits of wisdom in here that you can take away based on whatever phase you're in for hiring people and working with your teams. And hopefully I gave you a little bit of inspiration. If you've been burned, you can absolutely you can come back from it and you can actually find the right people. If you believe it in your heart and your mind that the right people are out there, I promise you will find them. When you are in the right space, you will attract the right people into your space. Okay, that's it. Take whatever you learned today and just do some kind of action with it, you guys. I love the sit back and listen. It's awesome. It's a little more passive action. It's important. But then if we want to get a result, we've got to take a piece of something and actually take an action step, do something with it. And based on today's show, if you're seeing some red flags in your team, the action I'm going to suggest is that you do something about it to course correct. Don't just overlook those red flags. Do something about it to develop your team and have the best people around you and the best people in your business. All right, guys, that's it. Get out there and have a happy, productive day. I hope you found today's episode of the Happy Productive Podcast inspiring. Every successful business is formed by a set of small, consistent, and attainable steps. If you want to learn more, come visit us at jenniferdawncoaching.com to take your next step and learn how to meet your business goals. On our website, you're going to find free resources along with links to the life-changing coaching programs that have transformed the lives of so many of our clients, including the Coaching Academy and our Unbreakable retreats. Many of them started their journey by listening to this podcast. That's it. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for our next episode.